Let's discuss this now. In favor of Macedonia's name change is Peter Arsovsky. He's a public relations strategist and political analyst in Skopje. Opposing the name change from Toronto is Bill Nikolov. He's the president of the Macedonian Human Rights Movement International. And completing our panel from Heidelberg, Germany, we have Achilles Skordas. He's a former advisor to the Greek Parliament on international legal affairs. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Bill Nikolov, let me start with you. The foreign ministers meet, they sign a deal, the prime ministers agree on the deal, they call it historic. They say this is a major step in ending a 27-year dispute. It's win-win for everyone, isn't it? What's your problem with it?
It denies my right to exist. So win-win, I wouldn't call it. And off the top, I was referred to as a nationalist, but don't worry, I've been called worse. I'm Macedonian, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights defends my right to exist. The West claims to uphold all these human rights conventions, so why am I always under attack for being Macedonian from Macedonia? My ethnic identity is who I am, the name of my country is who I am. So calling it a win-win is just quite offensive, to be honest with you. And again, in terms of technical aspect, the Prime Minister of Macedonia, well, I will add the illegitimate Prime Minister of Macedonia, but he signed a symbolic agreement. He has no right to unilaterally change the name of a country, number one. Number two, he would have to actually take it to Parliament. Number three, there would be a referendum. Number four, President Ivanov already announced that he would veto it. And of course, let's not forget that he violated the Constitution. So by changing the name of country and by definition who we are, all Macedonians in the region, not just in the Republic of Macedonia, then he actually did break the law, violated the Constitution.
And
so
as
this
you mentioned,
deal is not going to go through.
Okay, Peter Arsovsky, we've just heard an impassioned defense of why Macedonia should be called Macedonia from Bill Nikolov. He finds it offensive that this deal has been struck between the two foreign ministers. He doesn't think it's going to be passed through. He's not happy with what's happening. Tell me why you think he's wrong.
Well, I think we understand that for many people this is a very emotional issue, and we understand that this may be a bitter pill to swallow, especially for the Macedonian diaspora that's been going on forever. However, in light of the current events, it looks like this is the only way forward for the region and for the country. Over the past 12 years, we've seen a lot of downward sliding of the country, and this seems to be the only way to pave the forward way for the country right now. So in support of the deal, it'll open up EU and NATO perspectives. It'll open up probably new jobs, new real benefits for the people. And overall, looking at the deal, it seems that the benefits outweigh the sacrifices right now.
Okay, more than 68% of people polled said they're against the deal. Tell me the thinking behind that.
Yes, the thinking is that first, Greeks also are very worried to maintain somehow their historical identity. Cultural heritage is also protected by international law and international relations. The heritage of Alexander the Great is very important for the Greek people. Apart from that, we have a very uncomfortable history in the 20th century, the Greek Civil War, Slav Macedonians in Greece joining the Greek Communist Party, and the Communist Party at some point promising an independent Macedonia. So these are things that have a deep impact on people, on their emotional world and on their understanding of the world. However, I believe that the right compromise was struck with the agreement between the two prime ministers. I'm confident that Greece will not create a major problem by the ratification of the agreement when this happens, because by that time a dynamic will have been developed which would be so strong after Northern Macedonia will have finalized its own procedures that there will be no problem from the side of the Greeks.
Okay, so let's go to Bill. So Bill, you've heard two perspectives here. You've heard the one perspective saying, for our country, for Macedonia, from Peter's perspective, this will be better for us. NATO membership possibly, EU membership possibly. It's for the greater good, even though this is an emotive issue here. We've got an understanding from Achilles about what some Greeks are thinking, why they're opposed to it. Doesn't that even strengthen the case for the big, strong leadership that's taking place on both sides right now to let bygones be bygones and try and do something productive out of this? Because the name Macedonia will still be in that name.
Okay, so we're discussing, there's a 19-page document telling me who I am. Does that sound normal to you? Any other ethnic group, think about it. If you were in this situation, you would demand, actually, you wouldn't have to demand that the world defend your right to exist, because the world would be defending your right to exist. Every time I meet with heads of state, Canadian, US, Western Europe, everything, the first thing they tell me is, if Macedonia stopped negotiating its name, we would defend your right to your own name. Macedonian Human Rights Movement International started an Our Name is Macedonia campaign many years ago. Look it up. There's a hashtag Our Name is Macedonia too. It demands an end to the name negotiations as a basic human right. And again, everything that the West claims to uphold, but they're violating it now. So if the Macedonian government, both major political parties, actually grew a spine and said, you know what, this has always been our name, we're not negotiating it, this issue would have died long ago. The vast majority of the world recognized Macedonia. We have one major oppressor. We got a few other ones too. Isn't that sad? The world sort of cares, but not necessarily. So Greece, our biggest oppressor, cares that I'm called Macedonian. Well, I don't care what Greece thinks. The world shouldn't care either. Our name is Macedonia. Now, to get to Peter's point, he admits that there is something wrong with the deal. That tells you everything right there. If there's something wrong with changing your name, don't do it. If you so desperately want EU and NATO membership, I could talk for hours about why that's not good. Austerity measures, ask our Greek associate. Or, I mean, he identifies as Greek, so I will call him that. I'm not a Northern Macedonian. I'm Macedonian, by the way. Anyway, you know what? Ask that. Why do you want membership in the EU and NATO, which will actually hurt Macedonia? But leaving that aside for a minute, there is one country, there is veto power by any country. Change the rule. I've met with foreign policy advisors who want to get Macedonia in at all costs, changing the name. How about change the veto rule? Force the oppressor not to use the veto rule, right? Example, Montenegro is in NATO. If Montenegro wanted to deny membership to a potential member, you think they would be allowed to do that? No. Treat Greece in the same way as the biggest human rights oppressor in Greece. We have won, paid for by Macedonian Human Rights Movement International, countless cases in the European Court of Human Rights demanding that Greece and Bulgaria recognize Macedonians' right to exist.
Okay,
the
so
UN,
fair enough.
independent
So,
expert Gay McDougall said the exact same thing. We
so
exist.
Bill, one of the problems I have here is I don't quite have the EU or NATO, for example, to answer for why it might be a good idea or not to change the rules, right? But Peter's made the argument that if we want to smooth the process, perhaps we can compromise. Let's go back to Peter. Now, Peter, you're hearing from Bill. Bill fundamentally believes, no matter what, that there's an erasure of identity here, that sovereignty and identity are under threat when it comes to changing the name. That's why it's a non-negotiable issue. Do you have sympathy for that?
I have sympathy for the emotion and the fervor and the vehement with which he defends his position. And I agree with the fact that the deal is not ideal. However, the problem is that we are not choosing between this deal and some abstract deal in the future. We're choosing between this deal and no deal. We're choosing between the future and the past. The way democracy works is that if you have 90% of the people willing to get into EU and NATO now, there's something that the government should be doing about this. And the benefit of the deal is not only the EU integration, because that's a transitory alliance. In fact, it's more than that. It's a method of initiation. It's showing that you can compromise on tough issues and thereby become a member of a bigger world global community. It's showing that you can resolve disputes without conflict by actually at the negotiating table. It is a tough deal for both Greece and Macedonia. In fact, I would argue that nothing from the deal actually detriments the Macedonian identity or the Macedonian ethnical feeling. I've read through the document a couple of times. There's absolutely nothing I can find apart from the addition to the actual name of the country that actually destroys or diminishes Macedonian identity to any extent. Overall, I would say it brings stability to the region. It paves up the way for a future resolution of Balkan conflicts without on the negotiating table. It shows that Greece and Macedonia can work past their differences, and it actually supports the growing up of the country.
Okay.
So in overall, I think that the benefits of the deal greatly outweigh the sacrifices, if any.
Okay, so we have Macedonians who don't want to be called anything other than Macedonia, even if it's within the name. And we have many Greeks who don't want their northern neighbor to be called anything that has the name Macedonia. And it's something that I'm struggling to understand, Achilles, is what's in it for Greece? Why has Tsipras done this? Because I see more potential benefits for the Macedonians if we look at NATO and the EU, even though Bill might disagree. What's in it for Greece?
I would like first to ask our friend from Canada not to use expressions the way he did.
No. What is my ethnic identity? I'm from Canada and I'm proud of it. What is my ethnic identity?
Identity, we have our own.
I'm your Macedonian friend. If you want to be my friend, you can call me by who I am, please.
Treat the term Greek as an oppressor. Greek is a potential friend, is already a friend of Macedonia, and we are very happy to continue working with our northern neighbor in the European Union. Any other position leads Russia into the country. Every other solution leads Russia into the Balkans. And we know what happened in the Balkans with fanaticism of identity 20 years ago. We don't want these stories to come back in the future of our countries. We want all together, and this is the Greek Prime Minister's purpose, to establish a big European identity from the traditions, the historical traditions and the national traditions of all the peoples of Europe. And let me tell you something. If suddenly Germany would claim Peter the Great as their own, it would be laughable. Everybody would laugh. Nobody would take such a thing seriously. So let's be serious.
I'm sorry. Greece's position has changed since 1988. Listen, people, Macedonia was divided in 1913. Macedonia, okay? It is well known what Macedonia is and was, okay? So it was divided into 4 countries. One part is independent now. Greece used to deny the existence of Macedonia. They changed the name of all Macedonian villages and people from 1913 onwards. If Macedonia was always Greek, these villages and towns and cities would have had Greek names under the Ottoman Empire. As an example, the majority of my family comes from various parts of Macedonia. The main part is Aegean Macedonia, which is the part that Greece took over, and Mala Prespa, which is the part that Albania took over. So as an example, and I tweeted this, and I'm sure many of you saw it, my great-grandfather, Dedo means grandfather, Dedo Krsто, was born in 1903, the year of the Ilinden uprising against the Turks. He was Macedonian under Turkish occupation. From 1913 onwards, he was Macedonian under Greek occupation. When he moved to Canada, he was still Macedonian. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to diminish his memory and call him, posthumously, I forgot how to pronounce it, but to say that he is no longer Macedonian.
Okay. Achilles,
he was Northern Macedonian
back then. Let me give Achilles the final word here. Okay,
We knew nothing but Macedonian and to be Macedonian.
Fair enough, Achilles.
And in terms of the European Union, Peter, I need to answer this.
Okay, hold on.
Peter, you want European Union membership,
Bill,
so that's fine. But
Bill,
it's not one or the other.
I don't have time for the EU now. I just want to get a final response from Achilles. We're out of time. Achilles.
I'm not here to discuss history, and it's not my business to
come back,
as I said, to discuss family trees. We have a future in Europe. We are in a crucial moment.
Family what?
And I'm not going to play the game of nationalism, which is not far away from the Golden Dawn and from Marine Le Pen. This is the quality of the argument that wants to bring conflict.
That's impressive. That's
But
impressive.
not bring this conflict because we are here to protect peace and security in our continent. And the Greek Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of Northern Macedonia are doing their job very well, and this needs to be acknowledged.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm out of time. I would love to go on,
Peter,
but I cannot. I apologize.
When someone is called Northern Macedonian,
and that's why we've had this debate.
Macedonian?
Okay, that's why we've had this debate.
That implies that Macedonian
certainly, you've had an opportunity to express your opinion, and I'm thankful for you coming onto the program. Bill Nikolov, Achilles Kordas, and Peter Arsovsky, I thank you all for joining us on the Newsmakers.